Hello, and today I'm coming to you guys with another psychology video for the OCR A2 specification. Now, I I said to you guys in our last video there were more tech videos coming up. There are more tech videos coming up. So if you're not interested in this, hang in there and wait for the next video. But seems like there are some people that are, and it's a cool way for me to learn the content that I need to learn while shooting some videos as well. So that's why I'm doing it really, and so yeah, I always want to preface this video by saying this particular study, the one we're going to talk about today, I haven't covered in class. Interestingly, in the OCR A2 specification, you're only supposed to, you only have to cover two options from crime, health, sport, or education. Now, my school does crime and sport, but I'm more interested in health, so I'm doing health in my own time. What that means is I won't be doing these studies in class. So if you happen to be doing this specification, or if I get anything wrong and it sounds wrong to you, then do let me know, because I'm just using resources from the internet and whatever I can get my hands on really, and basing that on what's in the official exam specification. So with all that out of the way, what we're going to talk about today is the health belief model, and the study named for that is Becker 1978. When we start talking about the study, I am actually going to glance over a little bit like this so I can look at my notes, but for now we're okay, because you know that for each of the questions in G543, and that's the paper reference, you need to have a theory and a supporting study. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the theory first, so that's what we're gonna dive into now. I do also want to say that I'll just pop this up. In the spec, it does actually say that the example of a study that it gives for the health belief model is Becker and Rosenstack 1984, and like I just said, the one we're going to cover is Becker 1978. I think it covers what's in the spec, and I found it in a resource online that's specifically developed for this course. So I'm personally comfortable with using it as a reference in the exam. In the specification, it only gives the studies, it gives you a topic and then gives you an example of a study reference. It says e.g. So that would imply that you don't have to use that exact study. Anyway, with all that said, we're gonna get into actually talking about the health belief model, but I do want to give that precursor kind of disclaimer that this isn't a study that's covered in the spec. Okay, so the idea of the health belief model is looking at why people comply with a medical regime. So we all know that if we eat 5 fruit and vegetables a day, we might be healthier. We all know that if we don't smoke, we might be healthier. We all know that if we do exercise, we might be more healthy. Or, you know, all these kinds of things. If we don't drink alcohol, we might be more healthy. But yet we still do it anyway. So the health belief model is that's what it's concerned with, working out why we do that, and it's rated on several axes that can help to work that out. So let's talk about what they are. Firstly, in my notes I've got here, it says the health belief model was originally developed in the 1950s, even though the particular study that we're looking at is, as I say, Becker et al. 1978. So, what are the constructs, if you like, that dictate whether a person has a health belief and as such complies with a health regime? Well, according to this model, there are four main kind of concrete ideas, and then there are two or so that were added later. So we'll start with the four concrete constructs, and they are that the person has to have a perceived susceptibility. So they have to believe that they could, or whoever else is concerned with, and that's relevant because the study that we actually use as evidence, this particular study, and we'll talk about in a minute, is done on children. It's about their parents' adherence to the health belief models as on their behalf. So that's what that in reference to. But anyway, perceived susceptibility. So obviously, if you don't see yourself as susceptible, in spite of what the health professionals said, then you're not gonna probably adhere to the advice. And the next one's very, very closely related. Perceived severity. So if you think that you'll be alright, even if the negative consequence that the health professionals say, if you think in spite of that you'll be able to function well, and it's going to be a low severity, then you won't probably adhere to the health model. And the next two are kind of linked: perceived benefits and perceived barriers. If you think there are benefits to it, you will do it. But if you don't think that there are benefits to it, you won't. And the barriers include things like effort, cost, money, and time. That play an interesting role in the study we're about to talk about. And benefits are obviously improvements in your quality of life. And I should mention that this is using the cognitive approach. So the idea is that we cognitively weigh up the strengths and weaknesses and make a decision based on that. So we've got perceived susceptibility, perceived severity, perceived benefits, and perceived barriers. The last two were added later, but are part of this study. They are the issue of something called cues to action, which means anything that might act as a cue to us either adhering to the health belief model or not adhering to the health belief model. In the example that I've got here, that could be something as severe as a relative of yours dying of cancer. So obviously, if a relative of yours is dying of lung cancer, then that might act as a cue for you to stop smoking. Or it could be as simple as seeing a depressing commercial to stop smoking on the television. So a cue to action is something out there in the world that's external to us that acts as a cue for us to complete a certain action. Hence the name. And the other idea is self-efficacy. How much you think you're going to be successful. So the idea with that is if you don't think you're going to be able to quit smoking, and you think it's going to be so hard, that's linked to the perceived benefits and perceived barriers. and you just don't think you're going to be able to do it, then you're not, you might not even try. So to start off with, to even attempt something, you have to have a high self-efficacy to make you want to try, and that's basically your confidence in yourself to be able to complete or see through a certain behaviour. So we've got self-efficacy, cues to action. The next one is something we called democratic variables. So that's things like age, gender, ethnicity, occupation, other factors that may influence you. So, for example, if you're a young mother and you've got a busy occupation, you may be less likely to administer asthma medication to your child than if you were at home all day playing with your children. So that's democratic variables. And something kind of similar, socio-psychological variables, and that's things like economic status, personality, coping strategy, and other things like that might influence how you think. So we said that obviously if you've got a low economic status, then you might not have grown up in an environment where adhering to health advice is important. So you might not. Okay, so like I said, every question that you do will need to be backed up with a study. So this is a study concerned with Becker, 1978. What they did was they got 117 mothers with asthmatic children and looked at how they looked at how good they were at administering their child's asthma medication. So 117 were originally asked and 111 were agreed to take part. There were mothers aged from 17 to 54 years, and the children are in between 9 months and 17 years. Each of the 111 had an interview lasting about 45 minutes, covering most aspects of the health belief model. So, asking them how highly how much they how severe they believe the child's condition to be, what the perceived benefits were, what the perceived barriers were, and how much it would interrupt their own activities, things like that. And also because self-report measures can often be victims to social desirability. People saying what they think is the most desirable thing. So, for example, if you got asked in a health experiment, do you idea health advice? The idea of social desirability is that you'd probably say yes because you want to look in the best light that you can. So they gave them a 45-minute interview. What they then did was for 80%. So that's 72 of the 111 children. They were able to corroborate that with a physiological measure that of something, and I'm gonna have to move forward for this theophylline, which, according to this, is a substance that all the drugs prescribed by the physicians that knew about the research, all the drugs included that. So therefore, if the child was having a asthma medication, that would be in their system. And linked to that, they combined the subjective interviews with quantitative objective measures of theophylline, which was done by pricking the child's finger and taking a measure of blood and then analysing it to see if they had indeed taken their asthma medication. And they argue in the study that there was a positive correlation between what the mother said they administered and what was actually administered, so proving that they weren't just giving socially desirable answers, but they were actually telling the truth. That wasn't actually that wasn't actually able to be conducted on all the children. It was only 72% of them, but it's rare to get such an objective compliance measure for self-report and prison. So this is quite an objective study, really. Okay, so let's talk about the results. First, the results means a positive correlation. So that means when one thing increases, it possibly causes or can be associated with. Don't say causes, because that'll mark you down in the exam. Can be associated with a increase in another variable, but they're both independent variables. This is an experiment that haven't been controlled. So although we can make we can draw conclusions from it, we can't make an absolutely accurate idea of causation. So a positive correlation was found between a mother's health belief, as obtained in the interview, of her child's susceptibility to the condition. So again, one of the health beliefs and compliance to medical regime. So that suggests that the more a mother believes her child is susceptible, the more likely she is to give the asthma medication and comply with the health regime. And the other one, perceived severity, positive correlation between a child's perceived severity and the administration of asthma medication. So the more severe she thinks it is, the more likely she is to comply with the medication. Cost negatively correlated with compliance. So the more a mother thinks her life is going to be interrupted by the asthma medication as obtained by the interview, the less likely she is to comply with administering it. And then just a few democratic measures that were actually interesting. And this one's particularly interesting to me. Married mothers were more likely to comply, so administer asthma medication. You could argue that was, I don't know, I mean, check what you want that be. You could argue that married mothers maybe have less responsibility for administering the asthma medication on their own, so maybe it's a bit easier on them. And this one doesn't actually say how they ascertain this, but one of the results was the greater the mother's educational level as obtained by that interview, the more likely she was to adhere. So that's the idea again, that if you know that the doctor knows what he's talking about, and you then obviously you're more likely to listen to him and or her and adhere to the health advice. The conclusion that they came to in that study was that the health belief model is useful and does explain adherence to health beliefs. Now, we know that in G543, a big part of the, more than just knowing the studies, a big part of the exam is being able to evaluate the studies and evaluate perspectives in general. Let's think about some problems with firstly, it says that the informed consent was gained from the mothers, but it doesn't say informed consent was gained from the children. A very common problem with any research involving children is how do you get consent from the children? So that's just something to chew on there. Another issue relating to ethics is they thought they were giving informed consent, but actually the covert fingerpricking to ascertain how much theophylline was in the bloodstream. They didn't know about that, and they were being deceived about that. So just some issues there, and then obviously there's the normal issues of correlation. No variables were controlled, so it could have been the difference shown in adherence could have been due to other factors apart from the factors included in the health belief model. It could be that the demand characteristics, so they thought they knew what the experimenter wanted and they decided to go the opposite way, or they decided to comply with what the experiment wanted, even though that's not what they would normally do. So just a few evaluation issues just to chew on there. Very long video. I hope you've enjoyed. Once again, I do want to say that I'm not doing this in class. So if you've got anything wrong, or you've got anything to ask, please feel free to leave it down in the comments. My website address is down below as well, somewhere there, which you can go on tom-rogers.com to get a whole ton of other interesting content. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.